So, Bridgerton has just released its 4th season after a nearly 2-year wait, centering around the romantic story of Benedict Bridgerton and Sophie Beck. And to be honest, despite being a fan of this show, I wasn't overly excited for this season. I've always really liked Bridgerton for its general aesthetic and gripping storylines, but I've also always been a bit mixed on the show. Season 1 was really good for the first half, but then by the time you get to the second half, Daphne becomes a rapist and Simon becomes a manipulator, so not really the type of couple you want to be rooting for. Season 2 is borderline perfect to me, and the main reason why I love the show. Anthony and Kate are just so good together. Their chemistry is hard to fathom. Season 3, however, was a mixed bag. It had its decent moments, but overall the season felt a bit sloppy, and Colin and Penelope's romance was so dull. Penelope was amazing because she always is, but Colin was one of the most boring main characters I've ever seen on TV. I was waiting for him to feel like the lead of the season in the finale episode. And he also had other weird and unnecessary storylines that just made the season feel super crowded. I just didn't love it. So I guess I just kind of subconsciously figured that Jess Brownell, the new showrunner, just didn't have the same sauce that the previous one did. But now season 4 has come around, and I'm very happy to say I was wrong. This season so far is excellent. The story of Benedict and Sophie thus far is super compelling, gripping, and romantic, and that brings me great joy to say. Plus, everything else is pretty damn good too. So today I'm going to talk about these 4 episodes and break down why this season really resonated with me. Before we get into it though, if you're new around here, please do hit subscribe. Over 80% of the people who watch my videos aren't even subscribed, which is just insane to me. So if you want to help me out, then please do hit subscribe. I'm on the road to 100k subs, so any help would be greatly appreciated. Firstly, let me run through a few general things that make me prefer this season to season 3. Visually, season 4 is a huge step up. I had felt that season 3 was a real downgrade in terms of its visual quality, which is a shame since it was such a big part of Bridgerton's identity. The balls in season 1 were genuine spectacles, whereas in season 3, they were just kind of pathetic. But this time around, the show is stunning to look at yet again. That is, aside from those 1 or 2 scenes with terrible green screening. You just gotta kind of look past that if you can. Violet's masquerade ball is one of my favorites in the series, and other scenes like Benedict and Sophie's dance on the terrace will just leave you in awe. Also, this season is really funny. Bridgerton has always had a decent amount of humor. You know, you have the inserts himself joke and quite a few others in earlier seasons, but season 4 is genuinely hilarious. I laughed out loud several times an episode. It really feels like the writers have gone away and perfected the comedic style of their show, and also learned how to use their cast's comic talents to their absolute maximum.
Penelope, what do you know about my son's search for a wife?
Forgive me, but Lady Whistledown cannot reveal her...
Penelope Bridgerton!
Yes, Mum.
What a charming relation you have brought on this promenade.
Speaking of the cast, I'm going to talk about Benedict and Sophie now, and yeah, they're just great. From their first conversation, I was immediately in love with their dynamic and chemistry. I will say at first that their story seemed to be a one-to-one direct rip-off of Cinderella. Like, not just inspired by Cinderella, but like, the story of Cinderella. But they quite quickly add enough nuance and layers to Benedict and Sophie to differentiate them from those cliches. Luke Thompson and Yerin Haar do a really good job at making you care for their characters, and I think it's really beautiful that they both represent a seemingly impossible fantasy for each other. Benedict longs for love outside of the norms of society, someone who doesn't perform to serve their function as a part of the ton, but who is unapologetically themselves and cares not for impressing others. He finds this in the Lady in Silver at Violet's ball and thinks that he finally has his future laid out in front of him. However, the class divide between the two means that Benedict cannot possibly be with this woman. She must remain a distant fantasy. I mean, I know they work it out in the end because it's Bridgerton, but I don't know how. I've not read the book, so don't you fucking dare. If any of you fucking spoil it for me, I'm gonna come for you. Sophie, on the other hand, is desperate to live the life that people in the Tun do and experience true love, but beyond that, she's also just desperate to be treated how she deserves to be. We learn that since she was an illegitimate child of a lord, she was cast aside and taken out of his will after his death, and the more time that went on, the less valued she became, until now she is a servant treated like absolute garbage by Lady Penwood. She wants to be loved for who she truly is, but believes that Benedict could never fall in love with her, only the Lady of the Silver Gown. Her self-esteem is very low, and it's heartbreaking to watch. Side note, the fact that Benedict doesn't realize that Sophie is a Lady in Silver is like kind of crazy. I mean, come on, I know the mask was big, but you've spoken to both Sophie and the Lady in Silver enough and have kissed them both. Like, surely that's enough. Also, there's only so many East Asian ladies in Mayfair. Like, you gotta connect the dots at some point. Additionally, Sophie's issues with wanting to be loved and accepted for who she truly is makes Benedict's line to her in episode 4 even more tragic. But you also can't fully blame Benedict for this. He really doesn't have any other option in this day and age. He can't marry her, or not only will he be scrutinized, but the entire Bridgerton family will face ruin, which he knows he cannot do, so he feels as though it is only possible to love her in secret. How to resolve this? I don't know. I'm in the dark. But I'm excited to see how they balance sacrifice and love in their relationship going forward. They're no Anthony and Kate, don't get me wrong. No one could ever possibly touch my parents. But, however, they are pretty damn good. Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury also have a very interesting story this season, which I wasn't overly fond of at first, but with time has grown on me quite a bit. The Queen is lonely as fuck this time around. The only time that she hangs out with anyone is her meetings with Lady Danbury, but Lady Danbury is also keen to leave town and go visit her ancestral home, as well as stepping back from society this year. The Queen hears this and immediately goes on the defensive, being very cruel and childish, which I originally thought was a little out of character for her. Like, yeah, she's always mean, but never so carelessly, especially not to her best friend. But then she breaks down, revealing that she's terrified to reach the day where King George dies, fearing that if she loses both him and Lady Danbury, then she will have nothing left. I mean, she has got Brimsley, but I don't know, I guess she doesn't count him as a person. And all of a sudden, it makes sense why Charlotte was being so defensive. It's exactly what George did to her in Queen Charlotte when he didn't want her to see how vulnerable he was and how much he was suffering. It's a cool story, and I like that Lady Danbury is trying to convince the Queen to make new friends with her ladies-in-waiting, particularly with Alice Mondrich. Speaking of the Mondriches, I never really liked them and thought that they were completely pointless, but they do have reduced screen time this season, which I like, as it doesn't feel as though they are taking up an unnecessary amount of the story, which I did feel like was the case in season 3. Francesca and John's storyline so far is that he struggles to make her orgasm. And you know what? I'm not even mad. It's funny as hell. Francesca going around to everyone in her life to desperately try to find out what an orgasm is hilarious, and her relationship with John is also very sweet. I like that they're starting to touch on Francesca's infertility issues that I have heard so much about, and I also just have an overwhelming crush on Hannah Dodd, so I kind of just love everything that she does automatically. And of course, just when things start to get good between the two of them, John's cousin Michaela returns from Scotland to give Francesca a bit of a gay crisis again. I know a lot of people are still kind of up in arms about this gender swap. I personally don't care because I'm not a fan of the book, so I'm just taking this at face value, and I'm excited to see how this story plays out. But ladies and gentlemen, I haven't even spoken about my favorite character of the whole season yet, Lady Violet Bridgerton. Violet has always been a great character. Ruth Gemmell brings her A-game to this character time and time again, and she's one of the most consistent parts of this show. But holy shit, season 4 takes her up several notches, and now she's just the best character that Bridgerton has going. Her unrelenting care for each of her children and finding them the true love that she believes they all deserve is just so sweet, and seeing her finally accept that she deserves to move on from the death of her husband and, like, you know, get her fucking freak on a little bit. It's great. Every time she's on screen, I'm just captivated. She is so strong, badass, and deserving of all the happiness and dick that she's getting this season. Absolutely A+. The other new characters are also really cool this season. Lady Penwood is terrifying, and everything down to her costumes just makes you feel intimidated. And yeah, by the way, I should probably mention that the costumes this season are S tier, but I mean, they always are. It's Bridgerton. It goes without saying. Rosamund is pretty cool, though a little one-dimensional so far, and my god, Posey is adorable. I just want to take her and put her in my pocket for safekeeping, man. All she had to do was get shot off by Rosamund one time, and I already wanted to die for her. I hope they do more with her in the second half. And I also really like seeing more of the servants this time round, and it makes a lot of sense considering that it's reflecting the main story on a wider scale. Violet and Mrs. Wilson, Portia and Varley, the question that this season asks is, how deep can a bond between nobility and servant go before it transgresses social norms? And it's a really interesting theme to see play out. I've always been a bit hit or miss with Eloise, but her character is much more consistent so far this season. I like that she stepped totally out of her comfort zone and talked to suitors just to help Benedict find Sophie, and her arc that is beginning with Hyacinth is pretty damn interesting. I love seeing more of Hyacinth since she's just a delight, and Florence Hunt has grown into a very talented actress. And yeah, it makes sense. Not only are the two sisters literally complete polar opposites, but Eloise, despite her best efforts, is self-absorbed. It's one of her defining traits, so I'm interested to see how she and Hyacinth work out their relationship going forward. I'm very happy that Penelope is such a big part of this season, and seeing the role that she plays now that she's publicly known as Lady Whistledown is super interesting. People begging for her to use her column to leverage themselves, and Benedict using her to try to draw out Sophie. It's a very interesting storytelling tool. We don't see much of Colin, but not particularly bothered about that. What I am bothered about is seeing more of Anthony and fucking Kate! I know we see them in part 2, but it's just not enough, okay? Seriously, I get it that they've cleverly written them to be out of the show this season, but starting season 5, they have no excuse. They are the Viscount and Viscountess of their house. It makes no sense for them to be anyway. So far, season 4 of Bridgerton has pleasantly surprised me. I think the main love story is beautiful and the side plots are much improved from season 3. I'm super excited to see how the rest of this season plays out, and I'm just so happy that the quality has been stepped up so much since last time. Season 3 wasn't bad, it was just a clear downgrade, but now the show seems to be back on top form with well-written, real nuanced characters and a really interesting narrative. Just please tell us where Reynolds is. I've been thinking about it ever since Queen Charlotte. I need to know he's okay, alright? Thank you all so much for watching. Please do subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.